The Department of Public Health and Human Services is pleased to bring you Aging Horizons. Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, fraud, legal issues, veterans benefits, and caregiving. Aging Horizons is a program dedicated to inform and prepare Montanans on these timely issues, making a difference to you and your loved ones. Here now is today's program host.
Hi folks, and welcome to Aging Horizons. On today's show, we'll be talking with a Montana Department of Revenue representative who can talk about the 2 tax rebates that has been offered to Montana taxpayers by the last Montana legislature. We'll tell you about the details of qualifying, possibly you're not qualifying, and some deadlines that you might need to know about in order to access a refund. So stay tuned.
Every 65 seconds, someone is affected with Alzheimer's or other dementias. Many become isolated at a time when help is most needed. If you or someone you love is affected, help is available, both for people with memory loss and their caregivers. Memory loss can feel frightening, but you are not alone. Call the free 24/7 Alzheimer's Association helpline, 800-272-3900, for guidance and support.
This is Bill. He just received his new Medicare card and is following some simple rules to protect himself from fraud. He knows to never give out his Medicare, Social Security, or bank number over the phone. And this is Nancy. She knows that to detect any problems, she always reads her Medicare summary notice or Medicare Advantage EOB to make sure the billing is correct. Both Bill and Nancy know that anything suspicious can be reported to Montana SMP at 1-800-551-3191.
45 years, 2 packs a day. That's like $80,000. I thought I was just hurting myself until I fell asleep in a chair with a cigarette. The whole house went up. I lost it all. I knew smoking was expensive, but I never thought it would cost me everything.
I've been shooting since I was young. It's something I've always enjoyed. I wasn't feeling like myself, but my friend noticed. He asked if he could hold onto my guns temporarily. At first, I was a little shocked, but then I agreed. I think he saved my life that day.
Welcome to Aging Horizons, brought to you by the Department of Public Health and Human Services Senior Long-Term Care Division. I'm your host, Brian Lamore, and we're talking with a representative today from the Montana Department of Revenue. We'll be focusing on 2 programs that have been offered to, Montana citizens through the latest Montana legislature. One has been the Montana Property Tax Rebate, and then the other was the Montana Income Tax Rebate. Joining us is Rachel Milne. You're a tax specialist with the Department of Revenue. Welcome to the show. It's great to have you here.
Thank you.
And at the time of the taping of this show, many individuals in Montana should have gotten some information or refunds from their income tax rebate. Yes. Tell us about that program, what it was designed to do, and how it works.
Sure. So in July, over the course of July, we issued rebates of 2021 income taxes paid to eligible Montana taxpayers. Eligible Montana taxpayers are folks that are Montana residents in 2020 and 2021. They've timely filed their Montana individual income tax return, and they had a tax liability. So, and a tax liability is reported on your Montana income tax return on line 20. Mm-hmm. So whatever amount is there, up to $1,250 for single taxpayers, married filing separate taxpayers, and head of household taxpayers, and then $2,500 up to $2,500 for married filing joint taxpayers.
Mm-hmm. And in July, the rebates should have gone out. It may have gone to their banking account directly, mm-hmm. and maybe they didn't notice it or they don't check that closely. Yeah. How can they find out if they did get it yet?
Sure. So we issued rebates based on what the taxpayer reported on their most recent filed return. So if they reported direct deposit or direct debit information to pay or to receive a refund of their Montana taxes, that's what we used. And then if they said they were going to mail a check in or receive a paper check for their refund, we mailed it to their mailing address. For some taxpayers, we weren't able to locate a great direct deposit, we just mailed checks. And yeah.
Okay. Well, so now the qualifications for that is you paid taxes in 2021, 2022, and the rebate was based on 2022?
No. So you paid taxes in 2021, and you filed a 2020 return and a 2021 return.
Oh, okay.
And you were a resident on both of those returns. And your returns had to be filed by October 17th of 2022.
22. But the refund was based only on 1 year, not
Yes.
2 years of tax
Right.
payments.
Yeah. So it's based on that 2021 tax liability.
Okay, now you have a website that an individual can go to that we have on the screen. And what's on that website in regards to both this rebate and the property tax rebate?
Yeah, sure. So it's getmyrebate.mt.gov, and we have information about both tax rebates, the individual income tax rebate for 2021 and the property tax rebate. And we have information, frequently asked questions, how to find the status of your rebate, if you were eligible for the rebates. Yeah, so.
Okay. Okay, and I imagine that you need to have some certain information in order to access that. Is there any information beyond your Social Security number that's required?
For the income tax rebate, you just need your Social Security number and the zip code that was used on the tax return for 2021.
Okay, and if they find out they did not get a rebate, is there a way to find more information or to correct your information?
Yeah, so they can find more information at getmyrebate.mt.gov. They'll have a link there to send us a message about with questions about why they didn't get their rebate or how to appeal not getting a rebate.
And an important aspect of that, I heard you say, was that you're a Montana resident. Does this also apply to maybe Montana corporate taxes, or is this personal taxes? And of course, Montana residents, you're out of state, it doesn't qualify.
Yeah, so non-residents don't qualify. Corporations don't qualify. It's just for individual income taxpayers. So
personal income taxes.
Right.
Okay. Well, that's really interesting. And the Montana legislature passed that just this year, didn't they?
Yeah, just this March it was signed into law.
So apparently they had more money than they felt they needed. What was the idea that they had money to give back?
Yeah, so there was quite a large surplus for the last biennium, and so the legislature thought it would. The legislature wanted to give money back to the taxpayers, to the folks that they believed helped fund that surplus.
Okay. Do you know offhand how much money maybe the state generates to fund state operations?
No.
Okay. I think it's a lot of money.
I do too.
If I remember.
I'm sorry.
Oh, no, that's no problem. But I think if I remember right, it might be about $1 billion is what the state of Montana spends.
Yeah, I know with the property tax rebate, it's they're budgeted, I believe, to spend about $338 million giving that back. But don't quote me on that. Yeah. I'm pulling that from my great memory.
Well, it's a surprise question.
Yeah, it is.
No, so sorry about that. But, we're drawing quickly to a close on our first segment here. But we're talking with a representative of the Montana Department of Revenue on two different tax rebates. One is property tax and one is income. We just covered the income side of the rebates that the Montana legislature authorized to go out to Montana citizens. In our next segment, we'll be talking about the property tax rebate, so stay tuned.
Can you say ombudsman?
Bidsman. Benson?
Uma Doodlesman? Fortunately, you don't have to say it right to get the help of a long-term care ombudsman. If you or a loved one reside in assisted living or long-term care, an ombudsman can help resolve any issue. And these services are completely free and confidential. Now, why don't you try that again?
Ombudsman.
I was the last guy you'd expect to get diabetes. I was a competitive runner and I always took care of myself. So when I was diagnosed, it kind of threw me. But it's really encouraging to know I'm not alone with it. There are a lot of other people going through the same things as I am. It takes some effort. You have to keep after it. Exercise, meds, and diet are the key. But there are a lot of folks who want me to succeed. Diabetes is not the end of the world. With effort and attitude, you can have a normal life.
I think the most pleasant surprise when we turned 65 and signed up for Medicare Part B was finding out about our Welcome to Medicare preventive visit.
It was free, and it gave us the opportunity to visit with our doctors and establish a plan for our health going forward.
They reviewed our medical history, measured our height, weight, blood pressure, and counseled us on other risk factors.
To learn more about Medicare's free or low-cost preventive and wellness benefits, call your local SHIP counselor at 800-551-3191. I mentioned it's free, right?
Twice.
Elder abuse is a growing problem, and it's happening right here in our Montana communities. At least 1 in 10 older adults are victims of physical or emotional abuse, financial exploitation, or neglect. To get help or report elder abuse, call your local area agency on aging or Adult Protective Services at 1-844-277-9300.
Hi folks, welcome back to Aging Horizons. I'm your host, Brian Lamore, and we continue our discussion with the Department of Revenue representative about the income tax rebate and the property tax rebate. We discussed the income tax rebate in the last segment, so this one we're going to talk about the property tax rebate with Rachel Milne. You're a tax specialist with the Department of Revenue.
Yeah.
So let's start at the top. We're talking about real property. And what do we define real property as in Montana?
So for the purpose of the rebate, it's going to be a single family home, a condominium or apartment, a manufactured home or a mobile home, or a trailer house.
Okay, and you have to have lived in there? Well, what are some of the qualifications for you to be eligible for this property tax rebate?
Yeah, so for the property tax rebate, there's one in 2022 and then there's another one in 2023. For 2022, which folks will start filing for here August 15th, you had to have owned and lived in your Montana residence for at least 7 months.
And 7 months, basically that declares you as a Montana resident.
Basically,
right.
Yes.
And you had to have paid property taxes.
Yes.
And how would we have to file for it as an individual? How do we go about that process, and what does the Revenue Department want to see from us to verify what we paid?
Yeah, so folks will go out to tap.dor.mt.gov and they can file for their rebate there starting August 15th. And for what they will need to file is their physical address of the home in 2022, the geocode of the home, and geocodes can be found at cadastral.mt.gov. They'll need to know the amount of property taxes paid and billed in 2022. They'll need the names and social security numbers of their name and social security number, their spouses, and then any dependents that they claimed on their 2022 income tax return. They'll need to bring it, or they'll need their direct deposit or mailing address to receive their rebate. And then the department is mailing letters in August to explain the rebate qualifications as well as the filing instructions. So, and we ask, each of those letters will have an ID on it, and we're going to use those to verify the identity of the taxpayer. And the geocode, would that possibly be on your property tax bill that we may have retained?
our taxes?
You know, all of the counties report so many different things on their bill. It's not consistent. So our database is pulling from the Montana Cadastral website. So we want folks to report their geocode as reflected on the Cadastral website.
Okay, and the maximum amount you can get refunded is $675. Now that's not like per single person or double that per two people on a property, right?
No, it's just one rebate per household.
Okay, per taxes that have been paid.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Now, it starts August 15th, but is there a window? I mean, is there kind of a deadline? And if you don't do it within that window, you're not qualified?
Yeah, so folks can start filing August 15th, and then they must file by October 1st of this year. After October 1st, we can't accept any claims for the 2022 property tax rebate.
Okay. Well, I imagine you're going to get a lot of information coming in fast. I imagine Revenue has geared up in order to address this surge, I guess.
Yeah, we sure have. We've been prepping in the background since March and just fleshing out all of the different scenarios we're going to run into. We have frequently asked questions out on our website, getmyrebate.mt.gov, and those cover a lot of the stuff that common questions we've been getting from taxpayers. So I encourage folks to go out there and look at those.
And imagine if you file early, you get your refund earlier, but do you know what kind of a window for getting refunds once you have successfully and done all the information?
Sure. So folks have a couple different options to file for their rebate claim. They can go out and file online, which we encourage because that'll be a quicker method of getting their rebate. Or they can, if they need help filing online, they can visit their local Department of Revenue office, and a representative there can help them file online. And then we will have a paper form available. So with the online claims, we're anticipating getting those rebates out within 30 days. With the paper claims, those might take up to 90 days.
Okay. Now, when we say the amount you're eligible for is $675, is that kind of every taxpayer gets $675, or is it dependent on the amount that you have paid?
Sure. So the rebate is equal to the amount you paid up to $675.
Okay, so if you're fortunate, you pay less than that.
Yeah, not very. I can't imagine a whole lot of taxpayers are going to qualify for less than $675, but there are some lucky folks out there for sure.
Can happen. Let's define what property is in Montana that's eligible.
Sure. So the property taxes that are eligible are those paid on a dwelling and then up to 1 acre surrounding that dwelling. And so, again, this is their single-family homes, apartment condos, manufactured home, modular homes, trailers, and mobile homes.
Okay, and apartment condos is you had to pay the taxes, not the landlord.
Yes, yeah.
Not just a renter.
Yeah, it's not available to renters, unfortunately. It's only available to residential taxpayers.
Okay, and the landlord would have to live in the apartment.
Yeah, I mean, if the landlord owned the home and lived there for at least 7 months and paid the property taxes.
Well, we've drawn to a close on our second segment so quickly, and in our next segment, we'll hit on both these rebates again and reinforce some ideas that you need to know. Stay tuned. You've probably seen some big-name celebrities on your TV lately talking about all the Medicare benefits you're missing out on. But the insurance companies who are paying for these ads may be pushing benefits not available in Montana. Fortunately, help is available from a friendly state health insurance assistance program counselor who can help you sort it all out. It's free, and we screen everyone for eligibility regardless of your zip code. It's Montanans helping Montanans. Call today.
Respite. It's okay to need it. It's okay to want it. Will you provide it?
The hard part about having outside help is that there's not a lot of people out there who can do that kind of work. We've been very fortunate that our Bonnie has been with us for 7 years. I don't know what I'd do without her. I need her in our lives. She's our second mother. And I can't help but think of her that way.
To find out how to change lives, including your own, call 800-224-6034 or visit respite.mt.gov.
Did you just text me?
I didn't want to disturb you if you were sleeping.
Sleeping? I'm sitting right next to you, silly.
There you are. Hey, I found a couple of Medicare helping programs online that I think we ought to look into.
It says if we qualify, we can get help paying for our prescription drugs. Oh, and there's a program that can help pay our Part B premium.
To learn more about extra help and Medicare savings programs, call your local SHIP counselor today.
Maybe I better text him.
Like many areas in Montana, Helena is nearly surrounded by forest and is at risk of a devastating urban fire. Wind-blown embers from wildfires have ravaged communities like Denton, Montana, and Boulder, Colorado. Now is the time to prepare your home for wildland fire, no matter where you live. Be aware and prepare. Make you and your community a safer place. Visit firesafemt.org, paid for by FireSafe Helena and aired by the Montana Broadcasters Association.
Hi folks, and welcome back to Aging Horizons. I'm your host, Brian Lamore, and we're continuing our discussion about the rebates that the last legislature authorized the Montana Department of Revenue to issue to individuals in Montana for property tax and income tax rebates for taxes you've paid over the last several years. We'll talk about those details with Rachel Milne. You're the tax specialist for revenue. And let's start at the top. Let's go with the revenue side of the rebates, as that has basically happened already. And what was the eligibility and the purpose and the details of that rebate?
Sure. So the income tax rebate, that's a rebate of 2021 income taxes paid. And you had to have been a Montana resident taxpayer for 2020 and 2021. You had to have filed both of those returns by October 17th of 2022. You couldn't have been claimed as a dependent on a tax return for those years. And you had to have paid taxes. So it's a rebate of taxes paid. And, I think the purpose that the legislature of passing this bill was to give, as part of the surplus, the large budget surplus, back to the taxpayers that created it, right? The rebate is equal up to $1,250 for single, separate filers, married separate filers, and head of household filers, and up to $2,500 for married joint filers. So it's the amount of taxes paid for 2021 up to those amounts. Up
to the maximum amount. And to be a Montana resident, you had to declare Montana as being your primary resident for over 6 months, which is 7. So if you were a snowbird and you spent more time somewhere else, you would not be eligible. And if you paid, you declared yourself as a resident with another state to pay their taxes, that could exclude you.
Sure. There's a lot of different factors for residency for income tax purposes, and it varies from taxpayer to taxpayer. So I wouldn't necessarily say a snowbird isn't a resident or is a resident. But, if you filed a resident tax return and you established residency, officially established residency by, purchasing a home here or having a driver's license or purchasing hunting and fishing tags, things like that, going, just being a member of the community here. Those things establish residency for income tax purposes. So a little more in the weeds than maybe you want to get.
Well, now we're talking about the income tax rebate. For the property tax rebate, you have to apply for it with a narrow window. We'll talk more of that in a moment. But for the income tax rebate, you don't have to do anything. You have all the information, and the Revenue Department has acted upon it, right?
Yeah, definitely. So we go, if you filed your tax returns on time for those years, we already have the information we need to issue the rebate. And to issue the rebate, we're using the method of either payment or refund request information from that most recently filed income tax return. So if you haven't filed your 2022 tax return yet, if you're filing on extension, we'll use the information that you reported on your 2021 return. And then if you have filed your 2022 return, we'll use the information on your 2022 return.
Okay, well, I just a little technical detail there. I think you can take your refund and apply it to the next year's taxes. If you did that, how would the income tax refund work? Would it actually come to you, or would you apply it to your next year's liability?
Yeah, so we just look at the tax liability.
Okay.
And folks can find out their tax liability by looking at their 2021 Montana tax return, and that's on line 20.
Or you can go to your website.
Yes, you can go to our website and check the status of your rebate. If you qualified, you can check the status if you haven't received it yet. If you don't qualify and want more information about why you may not qualify, you can also find that information on our website. You'll just go to our website and you'll need your social security number as well as your zip code.
Okay, well now let's talk about the property tax rebate. You have a window in which to apply for it. What's that window, and what is the maximum amount that you can receive?
Sure. So the Montana property tax rebate for 2022, we're going to begin accepting rebate claims on August 15th, and the rebate claim window ends on October 1st. And folks have to file during that claim period in order to get the rebate. I'm sorry, what was your second question?
Well, the one that just popped into my mind is that the maximum amount.
Oh, sure.
And is this tied into filing your tax returns, or is this you paid property taxes and that's all you need?
Yeah, so this has to do with your property, the amount of property taxes you paid. So the maximum amount's $675, but it's up to $675. It is the amount of property tax you paid up to $675. There's a lot of folks, especially older folks, that don't have a filing requirement. So, but they'd still qualify if they paid their property taxes and met the other qualifications.
And the generalized property taxes is your home. Possibly if you live in your own rental, I guess, what are some of the other property tax classifications?
Sure. So the taxpayer had to live and own the home, and it has to be a Montana residence, of course. The homes that qualify are single-family homes, so just regular houses, manufactured homes, mobile homes, trailer houses, condominiums, and apartments.
And that's for your primary residence of 7 months. It wouldn't be a cabin, let's say.
No, not for your second home. No.
Okay. That's great. Well, we're drawn to a close on the show here, Rachel, and thank you so much for all this information and for your service to Montanans. We really appreciate that.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. And for our viewers, if you have any questions, go to that website. They have all kinds of information there, and the Department of Revenue wants to hear from you if you have any issues. Thank you for joining us.
Special thanks to the Department of Public Health and Human Services for their continued support. Hosts on Aging Horizons are program specialists at the Montana Office on Aging. Production facilities provided by Video Express Productions. For more information about Aging Horizons, call the Department of Public Health and Human Services toll-free at 800-332-2272.